Welcome to the Plan B CRNA podcast. I'm your host, Bobby Jones, and I'm so excited that you're here. The Plan B CRNA podcast is the only show made specifically for nurse anesthetists who are exploring options outside of their traditional career paths. This is the place to expand your mind and your goals as we uncover new ways to produce side income together. The mindset that we bring to any situation plays a key part in overcoming challenges and really enjoying our unique paths in life. On Thoughtful Thursdays, I like to explore emotional topics that are relevant to CRNAs and other providers. I think of this as my therapy, and I hope you learn some tips and tricks that you can use along your own journey. This episode is brought to you by On-Call Capital. On-Call Capital is dedicated to educating CRNAs and other healthcare providers about investing outside of the traditional stock market. On-Call Capital also provides opportunities for you, yes, you, to create passive income and generational wealth while also lowering your taxable income through investments in the apartment and alternative investment spaces. If you haven't hit subscribe yet, make sure you do that right now so that you don't miss an episode. Thanks so much for joining me today, and now on with the show. Welcome to Thoughtful Thursdays on the Plan B CRNA podcast. I'm your host, Bobby Jones. As always, I like to start these podcasts off with a quote that gets me thinking. So here we go. Quote, I have written 11 books, but each time I think, they're going to find out now. I've run a game on everybody and they're going to find me out. This quote is from none other than Maya Angelou. Yes, the great Maya Angelou had self-doubt, even after writing some of her best works. This is a truly personal topic today, but I'll try not to get into the weeds too much for you. Today, I'd like to talk about imposter syndrome. As a new CRNA, I felt on top of the world. I had the perfect family, the perfect job, more income than I'd ever had, and my ego was bursting. However, there is a pressure in this profession to be perfect, and I had this nagging at the back of my mind. Sure, you passed your boards, but you're not good enough. You were a B student in an A+ profession. They're going to figure out how bad you are any minute. You're a fraud. You can't hide that forever. These feelings of inadequacy didn't just start in anesthesia school for me. I actually recall them first in middle school, which is a socially awkward time for most anyone. But I learned at a young age that I couldn't actually be vulnerable or have emotions. In other words, I couldn't be real. This prevented me from developing real friendships over the years. I felt like an outcast in anesthesia school, only accepted by my classmates at a distance. Meanwhile, my alcohol consumption rose to unhealthy levels as I coped with the stresses of studies and family life. 1 year after becoming a CRNA, my wife and I separated. I couldn't figure out what it meant to have achieved all that we wanted to and still not have happiness or peace in our lives. I moved out. I withdrew from family and the few friends that I had at that time. While we would actually reconcile a year later, and I am head over heels in love with my wife now, my unhealthy coping mechanisms continued for a period of time afterwards, continuing to affect my relationships. It wasn't until I tackled my ego that I began to understand how to cope with the world around me in a healthier way. Professionally, I tried to gain acceptance by serving on the state board. I was subconsciously searching for some credibility in the hope that I would feel more accomplished as a result. But in truth, it only drove my insecurities further. As Tina Fey once said, the beauty of the imposter syndrome is that you vacillate between extreme egomania and a complete feeling of, I'm a fraud. Oh God, they're on to me. I'm a fraud. I didn't learn about imposter syndrome until I was nearing the end of my anesthesia career. Plus, I still misspell the word imposter just about every chance I get. According to Wikipedia, which is the ultimate resource, it is a psychological pattern in which an individual doubts their skills, talents, or accomplishments and has a persistent internalized fear of being exposed as a fraud. Despite external evidence of their competence, those experiencing this phenomenon remain convinced that they are frauds and do not deserve all that they have achieved. Individuals with imposterism incorrectly attribute their success to luck or interpret it as a result of deceiving others into thinking they are more intelligent than they perceive themselves to be. While early research actually focused on the prevalence among high-achieving women, imposter syndrome has been recognized to affect both men and women equally. In fact, it's estimated that 50 to 70% of folks suffer from imposter syndrome at some point in their career. As CRNAs, we are certainly not immune to these effects, even if it isn't brought up in many conversations. It works on a feedback loop. When given a task, as in from work or school, feelings of anxiety and self-doubt follow. There are two reactions to these feelings. A person will either respond with over preparation or procrastination. If the task is completed with over preparation, the successful outcome is attributed to hard work and not necessarily personal ability. With successful completion resulting from procrastination, the outcome is attributed to luck instead of personal ability. Remarkably, it doesn't matter which mechanism is used to complete the task because we don't give ourselves credit either way. Positive outside feedback has little to no effect on one's perception of personal success. An individual will instead discount the positive feedback, and the sequence of events serves as reinforcement for the next time, and the cycle just continues. As you can see, imposter syndrome results from the seeds that you actually water in your own brain. Do you give more water to the negative thoughts or to the positive ones? This process is about more than just false optimism, though. It's about reframing the way you look at yourself. It isn't just about learning how to accept and believe compliments, but about learning how to be your own person and be comfortable in your own skin. In essence, it requires an improved state of emotional intelligence to overcome. I've learned to battle this with help from my children, and I now work hard to own my own feelings. My kids can't make me frustrated. It is my choice to get frustrated over any situation. I will become my children's inner voice one day, which means that I have an opportunity to implant positivity in their lives, real positivity, not the fake kind. They know it is okay to make mistakes and to not expect perfection. This is a powerful tool for me and an awesome responsibility at the same time. That being said, I want to leave you with a few thoughts. Number one, perfection is impossible. It is the enemy of greatness. Number two, we must understand that feelings of inadequacy and insecurity are absolutely normal and that we are going to stumble along our path. Number three, a lack of self-awareness is what drives imposter syndrome. So we must get to know ourselves on an emotional level. Number four, we act in accordance with how we view ourselves. For more information, I encourage you to check out our show notes. I've included several useful podcasts and articles on the topic. As always, I'd like to thank you for listening to the Plan B CRNA podcast. If you found value today, make sure you hit subscribe so that you don't miss an episode. We also want to hear from you. If you have a question, comment, or topic that you'd like me to cover in an upcoming podcast, make sure you rate and review on your podcast player. I check those all the time and cover those questions in other podcasts. I hope you'll join us next time. This is Bobby Jones signing off. Thank you so much for joining me for another episode of the Plan B CRNA podcast. If you haven't already subscribed and reviewed the show, I'd be honored if you took the extra time. It really helps to expand our reach and get the word out about the show. If you're a CRNA who is interested in sharing your story on our podcast, I'd love to have you. Please email me at bobby@oncallinvestments.com for more information. This episode was brought to you by On-Call Capital. They are dedicated to helping providers like you develop passive income and generational wealth through investments in the apartment and alternative investment spaces. Feel free to check out their website at www.oncallinvestments.com and subscribe to their free educational email series. You can find On-Call Capital on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. You can also check out our YouTube page, where you'll find all of the show episodes along with other educational videos. Thanks for listening, and we'll see you on the next episode.